Amara's life had been torn apart the day her uncle betrayed her, selling her innocence to a powerful, dangerous man. That man was Randall. In the beginning, fear was her only companion, trapped inside his mansion with no escape. But fate has a way of twisting paths. In time, Amara saw another side of him, a man scarred by his past, running from a crown he never wanted. Their bond grew fragile but real until one night everything changed. Randall's father, the king, arrived, not only to drag his son back to the throne, but to present him with a bride. And with that single revelation, the fragile trust between Randall and Amara shattered. The morning sun crept softly through the curtains of Amara's room, painting her in a warm, golden glow. Randall stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching her. The chaos of yesterday, his father, the talk of thrones, the word bride hanging heavy in the air, still weighed on him. But here, in this quiet moment, she looked untouched by it all. Peaceful, beautiful. He stepped inside quietly, dragging a chair closer to her bedside. For a while, he said nothing. He simply sat there, his elbows resting on his knees, his eyes drinking her in. He thought about what it would mean to spend the rest of his life with her. Waking up to this face every morning, hearing her laughter echo through his halls instead of silence. The thought terrified him and comforted him all at once. Amara stirred, her lashes fluttering, before her eyes slowly opened. She blinked, her gaze falling on Randall. And for a moment, confusion flashed in her expression before softening. "You've been watching me?" she asked, her voice still thick with sleep. Randall let out a low chuckle, leaning back in the chair. "Guilty, but I couldn't help it. You look like peace, Amara. Something I've been searching for all my life." Her lips parted slightly, her heart stumbling at his words. "Peace?" He nodded, his voice dropping to a tender whisper. "Yes, peace. Home. Everything I didn't know I wanted until I met you." The air between them shifted, heavy but tender, as if the universe itself leaned closer to listen. Randall moved from the chair, sitting carefully on the edge of the bed. His hand hovered, then finally brushed against hers. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the rest of the world seemed to fall away. Amara's eyes stayed locked on Randall's, the weight of his words pressing against the walls she had built around her heart. She shifted slightly on the bed, pulling the blanket up, but not pulling her hand away from his. "Randall," she whispered, her voice hesitant. "You can't say things like that if you don't mean them." His gaze softened, his thumb brushing lightly over her knuckles. "I've never meant anything more in my life. For so long, Amara, I thought I didn't deserve this. Didn't deserve you. But sitting here, watching you sleep, I realized I don't care about crowns, about thrones, about the chains of my father's world. All I want is this, you, waking up every morning with you by my side." Her heart raced, warmth flooding through her chest even as fear lingered in the corners of her mind. "And if I told you, I'm scared," she asked quietly, almost afraid of her own honesty. "Scared that you'll change your mind, or that your world will take you away from me?" Randall leaned closer, his hand lifting to gently cup her face. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that I won't. Let them bring their thrones, their brides, their threats. I'll burn it all to the ground before I let anyone take me from you." The promise in his voice was raw, dangerous, and real. For the first time since yesterday, Amara felt the icy grip on her chest loosen. Her lips trembled as if forming words she wasn't ready to speak. So instead she leaned slightly into his touch, closing her eyes. Randall's forehead rested against hers, their breaths mingling, hearts pounding in rhythm. Slowly, his lips edged closer, carrying with them the weight of everything unspoken. And then, knock, knock, knock. The sound crashed through the room like a stone through glass. Amara's eyes flew open, snapping toward the door. "Sir," came the maid's cautious voice, "there is a woman downstairs. She says she is Amara's aunt. She insists on seeing her." Amara's body stiffened. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her aunt? Here? After everything? "My aunt," she finally whispered, shock and confusion rippling through her like cold water. The heavy silence of the house seemed to follow them as Randall led Amara toward the living room. She walked just a step behind him, her fingers brushing against the edge of his sleeve, as if drawing strength from his presence. His frame was solid, protective, a shield she hadn't asked for but had come to rely on. In the living room, a woman sat stiffly on the couch, her hands clasped tightly together. The moment her eyes landed on Amara, they widened with emotion. She shot up from her seat, rushing forward. "Amara, my child!" But before she could reach her, Randall stepped into her path like a wall of stone. His hand lifted, firm and commanding. "Step back," he warned, his tone sharp enough to cut through the air. The woman froze, blinking rapidly as tears welled in her eyes. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Her lips parted. "Aunt?" Her aunt's head snapped toward her, and with trembling hands pressed against her chest, she nodded. "Yes, my darling. It's me. I've been looking for you everywhere. When I found out what that husband of mine did, when I learned the wickedness he committed, I searched for you. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. You are my brother's child, Amara. I couldn't just sit and not know if you were alive or if you were safe. I came to take you home." Randall's jaw tightened. He took one step closer, his presence filling the room like a storm. His voice was calm, but every word carried a hidden blade. "Home? You call it home? After she was betrayed and sold by your husband? Tell me, how did you know where to find her? Where is he now, the man who put her life in danger?" The woman's eyes brimmed with tears, her body shaking. "I swear to you, I had no part in it. I despised what he did. And as for how I found her, I asked, I searched, I begged for answers until someone told me where to come. Please believe me. I would never harm Amara. She is my blood, my brother's child, my own child. I raised her when no one else wanted her. Do you think I could sleep knowing she was trapped here with a man who is not her husband?" The words stung. The room seemed to shrink. Randall's glare darkened. But before he could respond, Amara's trembling voice cut through the silence. "Randall," she touched his arm gently, her eyes never leaving her aunt. "She's telling the truth. This woman, she raised me. She gave me a home when no one else would. I can't just stand here and turn my back on her now. I respect her. I owe her everything. If she says she wants to take me home, then I must go." Randall turned sharply to face her, disbelief and pain flashing in his eyes. "Amara, no. You don't know what you're walking into. You're safe here. With me. Out there." He broke off, shaking his head. "Out there, they will try to break you again. I can't allow it." Her gaze softened, but held steady. "You once told me you wouldn't keep me against my will. If you truly mean that, then respect my choice now. Please." Randall's fists clenched at his sides. Every muscle in his body screamed to fight, to argue, to forbid it. But then he looked into her eyes, those eyes that had seen too much, suffered too much, and still carried the strength to choose for herself. Slowly, painfully, he forced himself to breathe. "If this is what you want," he said finally, his voice low and unsteady, "then I will not stop you. I only pray you'll remember this. I would burn the world itself if it ever tries to hurt you again." Amara's throat tightened. Her eyes glistened as she whispered back, almost too softly to hear, "I know." Randall stood with Amara in the bedroom, the weight of his unsaid words pressing against his chest. Finally, he reached for her hands, his eyes locking onto hers. "Amara," he began, his voice raw, "I need you to know something before you go. You have a home with me, always. If that place out there doesn't feel safe, if you ever feel like the world is against you, call me. I don't care where I am or what I'm doing. I'll drop everything. I'll come for you." Her throat tightened, her eyes glistening with unfallen tears. Randall pulled her into his arms, holding her as if letting go would tear him apart. "Goodbye, my love," he whispered against her ear, "but not forever. Never forever." His driver was summoned, and with heavy steps, Randall sent her off. His heart stayed behind, burning with worry as the car carried Amara and her aunt away. But the moment Amara stepped into her aunt's home, the warmth melted away. The woman's face hardened, her voice clipped and cold. "Go to the kitchen," she ordered. "Prepare food for your uncle before he returns. Do not waste time standing here." Amara blinked, her heart sinking. Though her face betrayed no surprise, she had almost forgotten. This was the woman she grew up with. Hard, unforgiving. Love was a fleeting thing here. Quietly, Amara obeyed, her hands moving through the familiar motions of chopping and stirring, the smell of food filling the silence. But even as the pot simmered, something inside her cracked. When she carried the food out, her aunt's voice sliced through the air. "Now go and pack your bags. You are going to the village to live with your grandmother." Amara froze, the words hitting her like ice water. "What? Aunt, no. Please, why? I don't want to go. I want to stay here. Why are you sending me away?" Her aunt's face twisted, anger rising. "Do you think you're grown now, Amara? Just because you were living with a man out of wedlock? Shameful! You will not dishonor this house. An elder has spoken, and you will obey." Tears stung Amara's eyes. There was no room for argument. The weight of tradition crushed her chest. Her aunt grabbed her arm firmly, dragging her outside. "There's a car waiting. Be good, child. Don't make me regret sparing you." The car ride was long, silent, suffocating, but when it slowed to a stop, Amara's heart lurched. This was no bus stop. The iron gates swung open, revealing a grand mansion she recognized all too well. The car rolled into the driveway, and the driver opened her door. Her uncle stood there, waiting. Amara stumbled out, her voice breaking. "Uncle? Why? Why are you doing this? Please, tell me this isn't real." His eyes lowered, shame flickering in them, but his words were like a blade. "I am correcting my wrongs, Amara. Mr. Daniels bought you first. You were his before anyone else. I am only returning you to where you belong." Her world shattered. She fell to her knees, sobbing, reaching for him as he turned away. But he did not look back. The doors of the mansion opened, and Mr. Daniels emerged, a smile carved across his face. His eyes glimmered with possession, not love. He stepped closer, his voice smooth, chilling. "It's just the two of us now, Amara." Forever. Amara dropped down where she stood, her sobs racking her body, the weight of despair crashing over her. She was trapped again. And this time, Randall wasn't there to shield her. Randall sat on the couch, the glow of his laptop reflecting off his stern face. He had been typing furiously, burying himself in work to silence the ache in his chest. His thoughts kept drifting back to Amara, her trembling voice, her tearful eyes when she left with her aunt. He slammed the laptop shut, pinched the bridge of his nose, and leaned back with a heavy sigh. "Sir," the maid's voice broke the silence. She hesitated in the doorway, fidgeting with her hands. "There are people here to see you." He looked up, irritation flashing across his face, until his eyes landed on them. His father, the king, stood tall, his presence commanding. Beside him, Ruth. Her face was calm, but her eyes glistened with something sharp. At her side sat a suitcase. Randall shot to his feet. "Why are you here?" His gaze fixed on the suitcase. "Are you going back?" "Good. You're doing the right thing. You don't belong here. Not in my world." But Ruth lifted her chin, her lips curling into a smirk. "I'm not leaving. I'm moving in, with my husband." The words hit him like a hammer. Randall's fists clenched at his sides. "Don't test me, Ruth," his father interjected firmly. "We cannot stay at some hotel when my own son has a house. Be reasonable." Randall's jaw tightened. He wanted to scream, to throw them both out right then, but instead he turned on his heel and stormed upstairs, his steps pounding against the wooden floor. The next afternoon, hushed voices drifted from the living room. Randall was halfway down the stairs when he caught their words. "We need to convince him to take the throne," his father murmured. "Yes," Ruth's voice purred. "And don't worry about that girl, Amara. He will never see her again." Randall froze. His breath hitched, his blood roaring in his ears. He stormed into the room like a tempest. "What did you just say?" His voice was low, dangerous. Ruth's eyes widened for a fraction before she composed herself. "I said nothing." "You must have misheard. Don't lie to me." He advanced, towering over her. "If you've touched her, if you've done anything to take her from me." His voice broke into a growl, his face inches from hers. "I'll destroy you, and everything you hold dear." His father stepped between them, raising his hand. "Enough, Randall." But Randall's fury could not be contained. He shoved his father's hand away, his voice echoing like thunder. "Both of you, get out of my house. When I return, you better be gone." He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. His car screeched to a halt outside Amara's uncle's house. Without hesitation, Randall kicked open the door, the frame rattling on its hinges. The aunt and uncle jumped to their feet. "How dare you barge into my home without knocking?" the uncle shouted, puffing up his chest though his voice trembled. Randall ignored him. In 2 strides, he had the man pinned against the wall, the cold barrel of a gun pressed to his temple. "Where is she?" Randall's voice was a deadly whisper. The aunt let out a terrified scream, falling to her knees. "Please, don't hurt him." The uncle tried to hold his ground, but sweat poured down his forehead. I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me." Randall slammed him harder into the wall, his voice reverberating through the room. "Where is Amara? Tell me, or I'll end you right here." The uncle's lips quivered, his breath shallow. Please, lower the gun. Talk," Randall barked, shoving the barrel harder against his skull. The aunt crawled forward, clutching at Randall's legs. "Please, let him go." Randall kicked her off, his eyes locked on the trembling man before him. "You sold her like cattle. You betrayed your own. You disgust me." Tears welled in the uncle's eyes. I had no choice." "You had a choice," Randall roared, pressing the trigger just enough for the click to echo in the room. The aunt screamed again, clawing at her husband's arm. Finally, the uncle broke. "She's with Mr. Daniels. He took her back." His voice cracked under the weight of his own cowardice. "I swear, that's the truth." Randall's expression darkened, his teeth clenched. He leaned in so close the uncle could feel his hot breath. "If anything happens to her, I'll make sure your death is slow." The uncle sobbed, his knees buckling. Please, please don't hurt me. Randall yanked him forward by the collar, dragging him across the room like a rag doll. You're coming with me. He turned to the aunt, who was wailing uncontrollably. His gaze was ice. Say goodbye to your husband. You'll never see him again. Her cries followed them out the door, echoing through the night, as Randall shoved the uncle into the car and sped off into the darkness, his fury burning hotter than ever. The night air was heavy, thick with anticipation. Randall pulled his car to a screeching halt in front of Mr. Daniels's mansion, the engine growling like the storm inside his chest. Amara's uncle sat trembling in the passenger seat, his words spilling out in desperate protests. You don't know what you're doing, the man hissed, his eyes darting nervously at the looming gates. Randall leaned over, his movements sharp and deliberate. With a single click, the cold metal of the cuffs locked the uncle's wrist to the steering wheel. The man yanked at it, panic rising. You can't just leave me here. I'm your only... Randall's voice cut through, low and dangerous. You're nothing. You sold your own family for money. Sit here and think about that. He slammed the door shut, leaving the man shouting after him. The night swallowed the uncle's cries as Randall strode forward, his long coat billowing, eyes fixed on the mansion like a predator closing in. Outside, Styles leaned casually against his car, a cigarette glowing between his fingers. When he spotted Randall, he straightened, flicking the smoke away. You're late, Styles muttered, though his grin betrayed his relief. Traffic, Randall shot back dryly, but his tone held no humor. Styles clapped him on the shoulder, his voice dropping. It's all set. The police are moving in as we speak. Daniels has been dealing dirty, illegal firearms, money laundering. They'll bury him before the night's over. Randall's jaw tightened. Good, but I'm not here for Daniels. I know, Styles said, his eyes narrowing. She's inside. Top floor, east wing. I scoped it out. He's keeping her close. Like a trophy. The thought made Randall's fists clench. His voice came out like steel. Then I'll tear this house apart if I have to. You handle Daniels. I'll get Amara. Styles gave him a nod. Be careful, brother. The bastard won't go down without a fight. Randall didn't answer. He was already moving, his boots silent against the marble steps. The front doors loomed ahead, but his focus was only on her, Amara. The house was silent, but every instinct told him eyes were watching. He ignored the tension in the air and stormed up the wide staircase, his boots sinking into the plush carpet. Each step was a countdown. He found the east wing hallway just as Styles had said. The final door at the end bore a heavy brass lock. Randall tried the handle. It held firm. His teeth clenched. He stepped back once, bracing himself. Then, with a single kick, his boot splintered the wood around the lock. The door swung inward with a crash. Amara spun around from the window, her hands still clutching the curtain as if searching for escape. Her eyes widened, the fear draining from her face and flooding with shock. Randall! His breath caught. For days he'd imagined this moment, but nothing could prepare him for the sight of her, alive, trembling, yet radiant even in fear. He crossed the room in 2 strides, his arms wrapping around her with crushing relief. It's me, he murmured against her hair, his voice rough. You're safe now. You're safe. Amara clung to him, her body shaking. I thought, her words broke into sobs, I thought I'd never see you again. He pulled back just enough to see her face, cupping her cheeks as his thumbs wiped away tears. His gaze burned into hers, desperate and unyielding. I'm sorry, Amara. I let them take you. I swear to you, never again. I'll never let you go. Then his lips found hers, in a kiss so fierce, so consuming, that for a moment the world outside ceased to exist. Every fear, every regret, every ounce of love poured into it, sealing the promise that he had come to keep. When they finally parted, Amara was breathless, her tears mingling with a trembling smile. "You came for me. I'll always come for you," he whispered. "Always." A crash from somewhere below reminded them that the night was not yet over. Randall's eyes hardened. "We need to leave." He took her hand, guiding her toward the door. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was iron. She wasn't letting him go again. Downstairs, muffled shouts echoed through the marble halls. Styles had Daniels where he wanted him. Randall didn't pause to look. He trusted his friend to finish the job. His only mission was Amara. They moved swiftly down the staircase, Randall's body shielding hers from every shadow. When they burst through the front doors, the cool night air rushed over them. Amara gasped when she saw the car parked outside. Inside, her uncle twisted against the cuffs, his face pale, as he spotted her with Randall. "You!" he shouted, his voice breaking. "Amara, you have to understand, I didn't want this. I had no choice. Tell him to let me go." Her steps faltered, her eyes wide. But Randall didn't let her near. He opened Styles's car door, guiding her gently inside, then turned to the man cuffed in the other car. "You'll answer to him," Randall said coldly, nodding toward where Styles's shadow loomed at the mansion entrance. "Not to me." The uncle's pleas grew frantic as Randall shut the door and slid into the driver's seat beside Amara. She turned her face into the window, refusing to look back. As they drove away, the mansion shrank in the distance. Red and blue lights flared against the dark sky as police vehicles streamed past them, sirens wailing. The night that had been silent now roared with justice closing in. Randall's hand reached across the console, covering Amara's trembling fingers. "It's over," he said softly. "You're going home." Amara looked at him, tears shining in her eyes. "Home?" His gaze softened, his thumb brushing over her hand. "With me. Always with me." For the first time in days, she smiled through her tears. She leaned against his shoulder, her voice a whisper that steadied his heart. "Then I'm finally safe." Randall pressed a kiss to her hair, his grip on the wheel tightening as he drove them away from the wreckage of the night. Behind them, Daniel's empire was crumbling. Ahead of them, for the first time, lay freedom. And together, they would claim it. The gates of Randall's estate swung open as his car rolled in, headlights cutting across the driveway. He shut off the engine and turned to Amara, his thumb brushing over the back of her hand. "You're safe now," he murmured, but his eyes darkened as he noticed the faint glow of light from the living room. When they stepped inside, the tension hit them like a wall. His father sat stiffly on the couch, Ruth at his side. Both of them stood the moment they saw Randall and Amara at his side. Ruth's face twisted, her eyes burning with fury as they locked on their joined hands. "You dare bring her here?" she hissed. Before she could say more, Randall tightened his grip on Amara's hand and stepped forward, his voice cut through the room like a blade. "No, you don't speak. You'll listen." His father's brows furrowed, his voice heavy with authority. "Randall, I know everything," Randall snapped, his eyes blazing. "All the secrets you thought were buried. All the corruption, the betrayals, the lives destroyed for your throne." The king's face blanched, but he remained silent. "That's why I left," Randall continued, his voice rising with each word. "I wanted no part of it, and I never will. If you want me to return, you fix everything you've broken. You set things right. Until then, don't ever speak to me about the throne again." Ruth scoffed, her voice dripping with venom. "You're making a mistake. That girl is beneath you, and you'll regret this." Randall turned to her, his eyes cold. "The only mistake I ever made was letting people like you think you had power over me. I choose my own bride." And it's Amara's breath caught, her heart pounding as his words settled over the room like a declaration. His father's jaw tightened, the silence stretching until finally he exhaled heavily, his shoulders sagging. "If you expose me, the kingdom will crumble," he admitted, his voice low. "Very well. We'll leave." Ruth's gasp of outrage filled the air. "You can't." But the king silenced her with a look. "Enough." She turned away, her fists clenched, her lips curling with hatred. As she stormed past Randall and Amara, her parting words dripped with poison. "You'll regret this, Randall. Both of you." The heavy door slammed behind her. The king remained only a moment longer, his gaze heavy with warning, before he too walked away. Randall stood tall, his hands still entwined with Amara's. He watched them disappear, his chest rising and falling with controlled rage. Finally, he turned to Amara, his expression softening. "It's over," he whispered. "They're gone." And for the first time, he believed it. The first rays of morning light spilled gently across the wide windows of Randall's home. The air was still, carrying none of the chaos of the night before. Amara stirred, her eyes fluttering open to the sight of Randall sitting at the edge of the bed, watching her. His hand brushed tenderly on her hand, his expression unguarded, filled with a peace she hadn't seen in him before. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice heavy with sleep. "I told you," he said softly, his lips curving into the faintest smile. "I'll always be here." She reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. "Last night, it felt like a dream." "No," he said firmly, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "This is the reality I choose." With you, her eyes shimmered with tears, but this time they were not born of fear. "What now?" she asked. "Now?" Randall's gaze softened as he lay down beside her, pulling her against his chest. "Now we live. We make our own home, our own life. No crowns, no lies, just us." Amara's heart settled, the weight she had carried for so long finally lifting. In his arms, she felt something she had thought impossible: safety, belonging, love. Outside, the world would continue with its thrones, its battles, its secrets. But inside those walls, for the first time, there was peace. And for Randall and Amara, that peace was everything. The past would always exist, the secrets, the lies, the kingdom they walked away from. But in his arms, she had found something greater than all of it. She had found a home. She had found peace. And for the first time in her life, she had found love. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this tale, remember to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next journey into our African stories. Until then, stay curious, stay kind,